First of all, very good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. My name is Sachin Hissaria. So, in this session, we will be discussing about some top IS audit interview preparation question and answer. And during this session, we will be also discussing what would be the expectations of an interviewer whenever you appear for IS audit interview. What are the things that you need to take care? So, we'll start with that. So basically, guys, whenever you appear for any interview, basically they will ask you a four type of questions. So first, everybody knows that interviews start with the introduction round. So they will ask you to do introduce yourself. The second would be they would be asking you some role specific questions. For example, here we are discussing about an information system audit. Okay, so they would be asking us some role specific questions that are require to help us to execute the task. And then there would be some operational and situational questions. Okay, so they might give you some scenarios that suppose if you are in this scenario, what would you do? So that questions are like operational or situational questions. And then I would say they will ask you some behavior questions. So in the entire interview, you will see all type of these questions. Okay, now in this session, we will be discussing about each of this type of question. Okay, we'll start with the very basic, that is, tell me about yourself. So basically, whenever we appear for interview, the first questions come is, tell me about yourself. So guys, whenever you answer this question, you have to be very specific in answering this question, because this is the first question from where your interviewer will judge you. Okay, so this is like a 2-3 minutes introduction that you have to give. Now, while giving this introduction, what are the key points that you need to highlight? So basically, we need to give introduction with our current profile, what we are doing currently. Okay, so we need to start our introduction with that. Okay, that this is my current profile. I will also, share you my introduction, that suppose if I am appearing for interview, how I would introduce myself. Okay, so we'll include the current profile. What are the relevant skills that you have to the job role that you are applying? Okay, so we need to highlight those relevant skills that we have. Okay, and then we need to talk about the previous experience and what are the key achievements that you have from the past experience. So these are some of the pointers that needs to be included in your introduction. For example, suppose if now I am appearing for interview, interviewer asked me to introduce myself. So how I would introduce myself? My name is Sachin Hissaria. I'm working as a senior IT consultant in global firm. I look after all the IT related assignment, information system related assignment, be it the ITGC audit, IT audit, system audit, cyber security audit. So I do that assignment. So I have a team of 5 people. Okay, so where I do the monitoring of assignment, and wherever my team stucks, I go in the execution as well. Now, from a qualification perspective, I'm a chartered accountant. I have done a CISA, CEH, and couple of other IT certification to gain knowledge in the domain. Okay, so these are the relevant skills I have. Now, suppose in the introduction, we need to give one quality of ourselves that make stand out of all other candidates. For example, what I would prefer in my interview, since I'm a chartered accountant by profession, I can understand the business in more better way as compared to the other IT auditor or IS auditor. I come from a finance background. I have a deep understanding of the business. I have a deep understanding of the business processes. Okay, I can use my business processes knowledge in information system audit as well, because I come from that background. I have a strong audit background. Okay, so it's just about the information technology and information system. For that, I have a relevant qualification. So this is about my introduction, guys. Okay, so as you can see that while giving an introduction, I have highlighted something unique in my. For example, suppose if you come from the IT background, if you are purely from IT background, now you are someone. Suppose if you are from IT background, you are someone who understand the information technology better than me, better than any other person, because you were there in the implementation part. So you please highlight that while interview that I was in implementation of this application. I was implementation in this solution. So I have that relevant skills as compared to any other participant. Okay, so we need to highlight those in the introduction part. Okay, so this is the first basic questions that is asked in the interview, and this is how we need to answer that question. Okay, now we will move to the second question. Now, second question, since we are applying for information system audit, now interviewer will also expect that you understand the audit. Okay, they may ask you what is audit. Now, this question generally is asked when you are applying for role, like, fresher roles, or maybe you have experience of 0 to 3 years. Okay, so I try to cover questions for all the level, be it a execution level, be it a management level. So generally, this question is asked when you are applying for entry level job, basically. Okay, suppose if you are applying for entry level job, they may ask you like, what is audit? Why do you think that audit is important? What are the line of defense? Okay, so this type of question may come when you apply for entry level job. So guys, whenever this type of question comes, you need to be very specific in terms of explanation what is audit. Okay, so you need to know the key terms that we use in the audit. For example, if somebody asks me what is audit, so basically audit is nothing. Audit is a inspection and examination of processes or system to ensure the compliance requirement. For example, suppose if I am doing an information system audit of a company, so as an auditor, I would be verifying their processes. I would be doing an inspection or examination of their process or system to ensure the compliance requirement. Now, this compliance requirement can be anything. This compliance requirement may be the policy, procedure, or standard of the company. This compliance requirement may be related to GDPR. It may be related to HIPAA. Okay, some regulatory compliance requirement. Okay, so while answering this question, we need to highlight this word. Okay, auditing is what? It is an inspection, examination of a process or system to ensure the compliance requirement. Compliance can be anything. It may be the internal compliance of the company, like policy, processes, or standard, or it may be the regulatory compliance. Now, suppose if somebody asks you that why audit is important, okay, so basically while answering this question, you need to highlight this line of defense concept. Okay, now some of you might be already aware that audit is a third line of defense. But what are other two line of defense? So we should know this. So I will tell you what are the three line of defense which is generally there. Okay, so let me open this slide. So basically, most of the organization, generally you will find a three line of defense. Now, what are those line of defense? So first line of defense would be your manager and staff who manage the function or who manage the risk. So they are the first line of defense in any organization. Then second would be your risk and compliance department who oversees the compliance in the company. So they are the second line of defense. And then comes the third line of defense, which is your audit department, internal audit department, okay, who provides an independent assurance to the processes, to the system in the organization. So if you ask me internal audit department is a third line of defense. But what about an external auditor? Okay, what about a third party consultant who are not a part of internal audit team? So guys, external auditor are over and above this three line of defense. Okay, they are the people who are over and above this three line of defense. Okay, so that is an external auditor. Now, generally, this internal audit department reports to the audit committee of the board. Okay, so while giving this answer, we should know this line of defense concept. Okay, so you need to answer accordingly that in every organization, basically there are three line of defense. Okay, and auditing, internal auditing is a third line of defense, and external auditing is over and above this three line of defense. Okay, now if somebody asks you why audit is important, now audit is very important because in audit, what we do, we assess the current processes. What we are doing as a part of audit, we are assessing the current processes. Okay, what are the current processes going in the organization? We are assessing those processes. After analyzing these processes, we are identifying the gaps or areas where the improvement is required. Okay, where the improvement is required. So this is very important task, because if suppose there are some risk in the organization which was not previously identified by the risk department or compliance department. So as an auditor, it's our duty, it's our job to identify all those kind of risk which is there in the organization, and accordingly we need to recommend the appropriate recommendations. Okay, so that is why audit is very important. Okay, now while answering this question, you should also know the audit phase. Okay, what are the audit phases which is there, how the audit is started, how the audit is executed, okay, how the reporting happens. So we should know that audit process. Okay, for that also I have another slide, guys. So basically audit is divided in three phases. Okay, we can divide this audit process in three different phases. First stage would be your planning phase. For example, whenever you get the audit, before starting of audit, as an auditor, you need to do a lot of planning. Suppose if you ask me to do a SOX audit, Sarbanes-Oxley Act of any company, be it insurance company, bank, or any other institute. So before doing that audit as an auditor, first I will do my planning. Okay, I will determine what are the audit objectives. Okay, what are the areas that I need to review? What are the applicable regulatory requirements to the company? So what I'm doing my planning before starting the audit. Then I will involve in the execution phase. Now in execution phase, as an auditor, you will gather some data. For example, suppose if you need to do a SOX compliance audit, to do that audit, definitely you will require some data from the auditing. So you will ask those data, you will evaluate that data. Okay, and then you will evaluate, you will analyze the control, you will analyze the documents, then you will come up with your observation, your findings. So after execution phase, the next phase is a reporting phase, where whatever observation you have identified, you need to discuss that with the auditing. Okay, so you will prepare your draft report, you will discuss the same with the auditee. Both you and auditee would be on the same page, take their management actions and action plan and target date and all. Okay, and then we will conclude the audit. So these are the brief audit phase which is there. Now, irrespective whether you are doing an IS audit, whether you are doing IT audit, whether you are doing a normal process audit, this phase is applicable for all the audit. So before appearing for interview, we should know what is audit. We should know why audit is important, and we should know what are the line of defense. Now, to answer this question, we have discussed enough pointers, what pointers you will include in your answer. Okay, so this is how you will answer your basic questions which was asked in the interview. Okay, now we will move to the next question. Okay, now suppose during the interview, if interviewer has asked whether your organization uses any particular framework for IS audit. Okay, if they are asking about any framework for IS audit, okay, then you need to answer this question accordingly, that my organization is using this framework. Guys, can you please help me in a chat box whether you have come across any such framework, whether you have used any such framework in a previous audit and all. Can you give me some names, guys? Can you give me some names that you used for IS audit purpose? So Anirudh is saying ISO 27001 NIST framework. Okay, what about others? OSO framework. Okay, okay. COVID framework. Fine. Okay. Yeah. So you can give the reference of those framework. One important point: whenever you give a reference of any framework, please make sure that you know the other stuff of the framework. For example, when you say that I am using an ISO 27001 framework, okay, for audit purpose. Suppose if you are saying that, then interviewer may ask you some questions from this framework only. Okay, tell me how many controls are there in ISO. Okay, so be ready for the next question from that framework itself. Whatever you are answering from that only, some additional question may come. So make sure that you are ready for those questions. Okay. For example, suppose here if I am saying that to do the audit, to do the IS audit, I have used the IT audit framework which is issued by an ISACA. Suppose if I am saying this, during the interview. Now, obviously, interviewer would ask me, what is, what is this framework? What are the key things which is there in the framework? Okay, so I should know that what is this ITA framework. This is very, very popular framework for audit. Okay, very popular framework. You can also go through this framework. I will provide you a link to download this framework, guys. I'm pasting this link in a chat box. Okay, you can also download this framework. You can also go through this framework. It is freely available on the ISACA's official website. Link is there in the chat. Okay. Now, if you will see this framework, guys, in this framework, they are talking about the general standards, what auditor need to follow while doing an audit, what are the performance standards, okay, and what are the reporting standards. So this framework is talking about these three standards. Okay, so that might be your next question, that what is included in the IT audit framework. So we should know that it is talking about general standard, performance standard, and reporting standard. This is very good standard, guys. I highly recommended all of you to go through this document at least once. Okay, if you are new to the IT audit or IS audit, this framework will definitely give you a very good insight about the auditing. Okay, so yeah, they may ask you this question as well, and this is how you need to answer. Okay, fine. Now we'll move to the next question. Again, this is like a generic questions which may be asked during interview if you are applying for entry level job. So guys, they may directly ask you, what are the key domains? What are the key domains which is there in information system or ITGC audit? Now, to this question is very generic question. Suppose as a part of ITGC audit, you have verified some 5-6 domain. Okay, why interviewer is asking you this question? Because he want to know that what kind of audit you have done previously. What is your expertise on the domains? Do you understand these domains? Like, do you understand what is access to program and data? Do you understand what are the change management process? So we should know what are the key domains for IS or ITGC audit. Okay, here I have highlighted some of the key domains for IS audit or ITGC audit. Like first domain is access to program and data. Now this domain talks about a user access control and logical access control that we verify as an auditor. Now in this particular domain, we verify certain processes like user access creation process. We verify what is the process of user access review. What is the process of user revocation. Now this is very favorite topic of interviewer. I have seen that in lot of interview, they will ask you a very detailed question for user revocation process. In our upcoming slide, we will be discussing about this, control very much in a detail. But I would say this is a very favorite topic of any interview. They will ask you very detailed questions about a revocation. I will be giving you a demo for the same in the next slides. Okay. So yeah, this is there. Then there are some password related control. There are some authentication related control. As an auditor, what we need to verify. As an auditor, we also need to comment on the SOD, which is a segregation of duty, and what are the sensitive access control which is there in the organization, and what are the appropriate control that is implemented by organization to ensure the least privilege, to ensure the segregation of duties. Okay, audit trail management. So this is all about your access to program and data. Now, again, very hot topic for interview is a change management process, guys. Whether you are applying for entry level jobs, managerial level job, they will ask you a lot of questions from the change management process, because this is very much important in information system audit. So you should know this process end to end. And in this seminar or webinar itself, I would be explaining you the high level process for the change management. Okay. Then the next important domain is computer operation, which includes your backup and restoration. Okay. If time permits, guys, I will explain you each and every domain, like, what are the general controls that we verify as an auditor in each of the domain, if time permits at the end. Okay. Here I am just giving you a high level information about the key domain of IS audit. Okay. And then the next is your governance. Now, governance is very much important in the organization, where we verify the policies, processes, so the procedure stuff, the risk assessment process of the organization and all. Okay, so these are the key domains which is there in the IS or ITGC audit. So suppose if they ask you, you should know about all of this domain. Okay. So this is how you will answer to this question. Okay. Now we'll move to the next question, guys. Now next question is what? Next question is about the risk. You know, at the start of interview, at the start of webinar also, we were discussing about this risk, correct? Himang and Hiral has mentioned that nowadays it is very much important for the organization to implement an appropriate control to mitigate the risk which is there in the organization. Now, suppose if somebody asks you what is a risk, tell me about a risk assessment. As an auditor, how you will verify the risk assessment process of the organization? Okay, suppose if they have asked you this question, how would you answer this question? First, you will briefly tell about the risk. What is a risk? Okay, so risk is anything. So basically, risk is something which can adversely impact to the organization. That is a risk, correct? Now, how organization will calculate the risk? So basically, to calculate the risk, first organization will assess the vulnerabilities and a threat. Okay, to assess a risk, first organization will assess what are the vulnerabilities and what are the threats. You should know the difference between vulnerability and threat. What is vulnerability? It is like a weakness in the process. And what is threat? Threat is something that can exploit the weakness. Okay, exploit the weakness. So basically, organization will calculate the risk. In most of the organization, there is a formula of probability multiplied by impact through which they will calculate the risk score. So now we have described what is a risk, you know, what is the importance of the risk, okay, how the risk is calculated, what are the key elements of the risk like threat and vulnerability. Now we'll talk about the risk assessment process in the organization. How organization is doing a risk assessment process. For that also, let me help you with the slides. Okay, what is the process of the risk assessment? Okay, so basically, risk assessment process will start with the step 1, which is your identify the critical assets or processes in the organization. So first, organization will list down how many critical assets and processes are there. After identifying those critical assets and the processes, organization will identify relevant risk. To identify the relevant risk, they should know what are the vulnerabilities and what are the threats associated with this particular asset and the processes. Okay, and then they will do some impact analysis. Now this impact analysis also can be done using a qualitative method or quantitative method. Okay, what is the qualitative method? When organization use some numbers to do the impact analysis. For example, 1 to 100, 1 to 0, okay, or some percentage. So that is like a quantitative, that is a quantitative where we are using the numbers. When I say a qualitative, it is like a subjective. Okay, suppose if to do an impact analysis, if organization is using a terminology like high, medium, low. For example, this risk is a high, medium, or low. So that is like your qualitative approach. So organization will do the impact analysis. After doing an impact analysis, they will prioritize the risk. Now, what is the risk prioritization? Like they will say that this is my high risk, this is my medium risk, and this is my low risk. Now, after prioritizing the risk, obviously organization will try to mitigate the risk which has a high severity. Okay, so high risk first organization will try to mitigate. So appropriate risk treatment or risk mitigation strategies will be adopted. Now, if suppose somebody asks you what is this risk treatment or risk response methodologies, so as a part of risk treatment or risk mitigation, organization may accept the risk. Okay, organization may transfer that risk to some third party. Organization may avoid the risk, and organization may accept the risk. They may transfer the risk, or they may avoid the risk and risk mitigation. Okay, so these are the 4 methodologies that organization can adopt to respond to the risk. So guys, we should know all these things to answer this one question, like what is the risk assessment. Okay, I hope it have given you the entire picture how you would answer the entire risk assessment process step by step, identifying the critical processes, identifying the threat vulnerability, doing an impact analysis. Okay, after that prioritizing the risk or processes, and then appropriate mitigation control. So this is your end-to-end risk assessment process. If you know the process, then obviously you can verify those processes as well. Then risk mitigation strategies also. Now this risk mitigation strategies the organization will adopt as per the the risk statement. Okay, as per the risk appetite of the company. Depending on the risk appetite, they will take the appropriate risk mitigation process. So this is all about risk assessment. Now again, very important topic, which is your RCM. In all of the GD, like in most of the GD, you will find this terminology RCM. As an auditor, you should be a very much professional in preparing the RCM, which is called the risk control metrics. Okay, risk control metrics. Can anyone of you, like whosoever are there in the webinar, can you please tell me, guys, have you worked on RCM as an auditor? Just say me yes or no. I just want to see how many people know about this terminology. How many people? Yeah. So if you are a CA, very much you are aware, because this is something which we use in the normal audits. Yeah. So as I can see, most of the people have never heard about RCM. And guys, let me tell you, this is very important topic for you to understand, because this is like your planning document, risk control metrics. Before I answer to this question, let me show you some sample job description as well. Okay, let me show you some sample job description, which I have taken, from the internet. Okay, and this is the GD which was asked by one of the big four. As you can see here, there is one requirement of preparation of RCM testing. Okay, and guys, I am very frank with you. I have taken this job description for one of the big four. Okay, RCM is very important. Now let me tell you what is RCM. Okay, so that you understand that as an auditor, you need to prepare this kind of document, and you need to have a good understanding about the RCM. So full form of RCM is what? Full form of RCM is a risk control matrix. Okay, RCM stands for risk control matrix. As an auditor, why we need to prepare the RCM, I will tell you. So let me open the RCM format. Okay, this is your RCM format, guys. Suppose if you are doing an IS audit of company, okay, if you are doing an information system audit of a company, as an auditor, you will prepare the risk control matrix document, where you will document all these things. For example, in the previous slides, we have discussed about some, information system domains. One of the domain was change management. For example, suppose if I am doing an audit of a change management, as an auditor, I will also identify what are the risks which is there in the change management process. As an auditor, I should know that these are the 5 risks. These are the top 5 risks which is there in the change management process. If I know the risk, then only I can verify the appropriate control. Okay. So as an auditor, we are documenting those risks in our RCM document. It is like a risk assessment sheet for an auditor. What? It is like a risk assessment sheet for an auditor. For example, this is my change management process. Now, suppose if organization does not have a policy procedure document in place, what is the risk? So here I'm saying that the risk is what? In the absence of change management policy procedure, the guidelines regarding the change management requirement, authorization, conduct of impact assessment, conduct of test sign-off to be obtained before go live, and may not be documented, leading to the arbitrary process to be followed. So this is the risk here. As an auditor, I am saying that if organization doesn't have a policy procedure document which lead to some arbitrary process being followed, it is like an ambiguity over a process to be followed. So this is like a risk for an organization. Then I am saying as an auditor, what is an inherent risk for the same? Now you should know these terminologies as well. What is inherent risk and what is residual risk? Can someone please help me? What is inherent risk? What is IR here? What is inherent risk? Inherent risk. Any
Without
one
a
of you?
control, any risk that is called inherent risk.
Yeah, so risk which is there without applying the control. Okay, risk which is there without applying any control, that is called the inherent risk. Without applying the control, I would say that it is like a gross risk for the organization. What is this? This is like a gross risk for the organization. So as an auditor, I am also, this is my judgment that for this particular control, inherent risk is high. What would be the residual risk? Residual risk is something which will remain even after applying the control. So I am saying that for this, this is my judgment that residual risk is high. Okay. So these are the columns. Now another important column, control description. What is control description? In control description, auditor will write what control organization need to implement. For this particular process, I am saying organization, please document the policy and process document for the change management. This is the control which organization need to implement. Okay, then some other criteria like control type, priority of a control, who would be the owner, what would be the frequency. Now another important topic, detailed test plan. Now as an auditor, how I will verify this particular process? So as an auditor, I will check whether this policy is documented or not. As an auditor, I will check whether the version history and approval history is there or not. So this is the test that I will be performing in the audit. So I am documenting this test plan in my RCM. Okay. Now other columns are also there, like what would be the test size, what would be the population size, what would be the sampling criteria and sampling methodologies. What is your observation in this area, and what is the document that you have verified? Now you can see the importance of this RCM, guys. The entire audit from start to end, the entire audit is covered in the RCM. Okay. If somebody asks you what you have done in the audit, what are the controls that you have verified in the audit, you can just present this RCM and your job is done. So this is the importance of RCM. You should know what are the RCM, how these RCMs are prepared, what is the importance of RCM, and what are the key elements of the RCM. During the interview, they may ask you that if they ask you, do you know RCM? You say, yes, I know the RCM. The next question will come, what are the key components of RCM? So while answering this question, you need to at least this component, that RCM will include the risk, what would be the standard control, what would be the detailed test plan for the audit, what would be the conclusion of that audit, what would be your sampling methodologies, okay, and the observation or positive assurance. So this many things minimum we need to answer in the RCM format. Okay, so I hope this is clear to everyone, guys. Very important topic, you should know this. I hope this is clear. Yeah. Okay, now we'll move to the next question. Okay, next question is, as an auditor, how you will select the sample size? Again, very much frequently asked this question, because as an auditor, in every scenario, like whether it is a change management process, whether it is a user access management process, whether it is an incident management process, okay, as an auditor, we need to select the appropriate samples. Now, while answering this question, okay, how you will select the sample size, you should know what are the type of sampling testings which is there, like the type of sampling which are there, what is the compliance testing and what is the substantive testing, and what is the sampling methodology that you have adopted previously. Okay, so this is like your practical experience, this is like your practical work that you done previously, and this is like a concept which is there. Okay, the type of samplings and the compliance testing versus substantive testing. So I will just give you a brief about each of this point. So let's start with the sampling types. Okay, what are the sampling types which is generally there? So basically, guys, you might have heard about a statistical sampling, non-statistical sampling. You have heard about an attribute sampling, okay, variable sampling, stop-go sampling, and lot. Okay, and now basically here the statistical sampling is very much important. Okay, statistical sampling. So as an auditor, you will select the you will use the statistical sampling. What is statistical sampling? Statistical sampling is a sampling methodology where the law of the probability of error can be objectively quantified. Okay, where the probability of error can be objectively quantified. Okay, so this is called a statistical sampling. Let me give you some example for the same. For example, suppose as an auditor, you are doing an audit of change management process. Okay, you are doing an audit of change management process. In the change management process, suppose there were 2,500 changes that were done in the audit period. Now, out of the 2,500 total population, as an auditor, definitely you need to select some samples. Okay, while selecting the sample, suppose if you have done a proper analysis of a change management population, like you have identified how many major changes are there, how many minor changes are there. Okay, you have checked the severity of a changes. Okay, and then accordingly you have from each month you have selected suppose three samples. Okay, so you are using a statistical sampling where you have done a proper analysis of the population and then you are selecting a samples. Suppose if I say a non-statistical sampling, it is also called a judgmental sampling. So basically statistical sampling, what will happen as an auditor, you will use your judgment. What you will do, you will use your judgment or past experience to select the sample. Now, suppose instead of doing an analysis, suppose if you are randomly, selecting some 30 samples, so it is like a judgmental sampling. So we should know what is a statistical sampling and what is a non-statistical sampling. We need to highlight these two sampling, at least two type of sampling in the answer. Okay. Then we also need to highlight about the compliance testing and the substantive testing. Now, what is a compliance testing? Basically, compliance testing involves the audit of a process where you verify the process only. Okay, it includes the audit of process. That is called the compliance testing, where the the analysis of data is not involved. Let me check if I have some slide for this as well. One moment. So basically compliance testing and substantive testing, what is substantive testing? Where the data is involved, or where you do a analysis of a data. Okay, where the data is involved. Okay, as an auditor, we are doing an analysis of a data. So that is like a substantive testing. That is what it is, like a substantive testing. Okay, so we need to tell about this as well. Okay, what is a compliance testing? Compliance testing involves the verification of process, whereas substantive testing involves the verification of data. Okay, then we will talk about the sampling methodology, which we used previously in a practical life. Okay, now we are not talking about the concept. To answer this question, first we have started, answering this question from the conceptual perspective, that as a part of audit sampling, I will use a statistical sampling wherever possible. Wherever statistic sampling is not possible, I will go for the non-statistical or judgmental sampling. While after doing a sampling, I will do a compliance testing and substantive testing on a data. And previously, our organization was using some sampling methodology. To prepare that sampling methodology, my organization has considered various factors. Okay, like for example, to select the sample, we have considered what would be the complexity of a control. Okay, what is the frequency of that particular operation? What would be the impact of that particular things? Okay, how much significance of judgment in the control operation, how much judgment is involved in the control operations. So likewise, considering all this factor, my organization has decided to do sampling basis on this. Okay, so my organization is saying that if my frequency of control is annual, then I will select one sample. If my frequency of control is a weekly, I will select this many samples. Okay. Similarly, my frequency of control is daily, then I will select samples between 20 to 30 cases. So this is the practical, sampling theory which my organization has adopted in the previous audit. So I am giving the, giving the brief about that as well, because that will give a confidence to interviewer that you know how the samples are selected. Okay, what are the key things that as an auditor you need to consider while selecting this sampling methodology? I hope this is clear, guys. I hope this is clear to you. Give me a couple of confirmation, please, because this is very important, question. If you have any doubt, you can ask. Okay, if you have any doubt, you can ask. Otherwise, we are good to go with the next question. Okay, great. Now, typically, role-based questions will be started from here. Okay. Now, we will be discussing about some role-based question that was asked in the interview. Okay. So here also I will start with the user termination or deletion process. As I told you earlier, this is a very favorite topic of an interview. Okay. Very much favorite topic of an interviewer, where they will ask you as an auditor, what are the controls that you will verify for the user termination or deletion of the process. Whenever you need to answer all this type of question, I will tell you the appropriate, step-by-step process to answer those questions. Okay. So what are the key points that you need to highlight here? Whenever you answer any role-based question which are related from the IS domain, okay, which are related to any information system domain, start answering question in this manner. As an auditor, first I will review the user access management policy of the company. Okay, so here I will review the policy and procedure document of the company. Okay, this is the first step or first line that you need to say. Here the interviewer has asked about the user deletion process. Now user deletion process is covered in the user access management policy and procedure. So I will start my answer like this. As an auditor, first I will ask for the user access management or logical access management policy of the company. I will read that policy procedure document. I will gain the understanding of the current process. Okay, what is the current process organization is following to revoke the access? Okay, after understanding this process, I will ask the list of employees, okay, list of employee who have left the organization, during the audit period. I will ask this data. Okay, after asking this data, I will compare this data with the application deletion evidences or disable evidences. Okay, for example, from application also you can, if you can extract the list of person for which IDs are deactivated or deleted. Okay, deactivated or deleted. So you will ask this data, then you will compare both the data. You will do, you will compare the HR data with the application data. Now here what you are trying to compare, that whatever user have left the organization, whether their IDs are deactivated or disabled. So this is a one way of doing this particular task. This is a one way. What would be the another way? Suppose if you ask for the list of person list of person, list of active employees or active person which are there in the application, which are there in the application. Now what you can do, you can compare the list of left employee versus active employee, active users in the application. This will also, give you the picture that how many employees are there who have left the organization, but their access are still not revoked. Correct? Right, guys? Correct. So there are two ways of doing this analysis. Either you can compare it with the deactivated data, or either you can compare it with the active user application data. After comparing those data, suppose if you have identified some instances, suppose interviewer tell you, so you have answered this question like this: as an auditor, first I will review the user access management policy procedure. After reviewing the policy, I will ask the list of employees left the organization from the HR. I will compare it with the active employee list or either with the deactivated user list. Now, suppose if interviewer tell you, okay, after your analysis, suppose if you have noted that 4 user or 5 user access right was not revoked. Access right was not revoked. What will you do? Not revoked. Suppose you have mentioned like this. Now, in this situation, what you will do as an auditor? What would be your next step? So you need to say this, that first I will ask for the logs. Okay. I will ask the logs of all these 5 users. Okay. From their last working day to the date when their ID was deactivated, because I want to check that no transaction was passed from this user ID. I will also ask for the last login date. I want to check, is there any person who has done the login from this particular account whenever there was a delay. Okay. So I will ask this two data and then only I will conclude whether the same will be reported as a high observation, medium observation. So we should know this process. Okay. Now suppose if you have tell this that you will do this. Now further question will come. The interviewer will tell you, okay, what will you do? What will you do if there are some transaction passed using that ID? Okay, some transaction was passed using that ID. What are the risks which is there? So guys, can you please help me with the risk as an auditor? What risk you see here? When employee have left the organization, still their account was active and some transaction was passed. This is the question the interviewer has asked you. What will you tell? What is the risk here? Tell me. What is the risk that you see as an auditor here? Data leakage. Okay. What about others?
Loss of information,
Unauthorized access.
business impact.
Fraud
Okay.
access.
Unauthorized access. Very good answer. Can I say that this is an unauthorized access because that user has already left the organization? The last working day of the user is already gone. Now, whatever transaction that has been passed using this ID, nobody would be held accountable. No accountability. You cannot, say that, Sachin is liable for this account because this transaction, because Sachin has already left the organization. Now you can't hold Sachin liable for transaction which was passed after the last working day of a Sachin. Okay, so you need to highlight this risk as well. So this is how you will answer to this question, that as an auditor, what are the controls? What are the controls that you verify for the user termination or user deletion process? Okay. So we have started answering this question from policy and procedure, and we have also given the reference of TOD and TOE. Now you might be thinking, where is TOD and TOE in this particular scenario? So guys, when you are verifying the policy and procedure document, it is like as an auditor, we are verifying the best of design. Here what we are doing, we are checking the design level control, whether organization has appropriate controls in place. Okay, design at a design level, appropriate controls are there or not. So this is the verification of design. When I say a test of effectiveness, okay, which is called the TOE. What is test of effectiveness? Whatever control that is mentioned in the policy procedure document, whether those controls are implemented or not, whether those controls are implemented or not, that I am verifying for test of effectiveness. So whatever steps that I have performed here, this I have performed to check the actual effectiveness in all your question. Okay, whenever they ask you a domain specific question, I would suggest you to answer all those questions in this manner. Start with the policy procedure, then tell them that through policy procedure, I want to check the test of design of this particular area. Okay. After policy procedure, I want to review the effectiveness of a control. To review the effectiveness of a control, I will perform this many steps. Okay. So if you will answer your question like this, it will give you a very good confidence to your interviewer that you understand the entire process end to end. Okay. Now these are, these are some of the terminologies which are very much used in the audit. All this terminology, TOD and TOE. Okay, so you should also need to use this terminologies while giving answer to those questions. Okay, it will give a very good impact. Okay, so this is all about your user termination and user deletion process. Okay, so yeah, now we'll move to the next question. Okay, next question is what? Again, as I told you, change management process is very much favorite topic of a interviewer. So here we will be discussing about the change management process. You have assigned an audit to assess the effectiveness of the change management process. What they are saying, they have assigned you, they have assigned an audit to assess the effectiveness of the entire change management process. What should be your area of prime consideration? Now, they want to know as an auditor, what are the controls that you would be verifying in the change management process? What are the areas which would be your prime consideration? Again, this is like your domain specific question, correct? This is again a domain specific question where they want to know about the change management process. Okay. Now, again, to answer this question, how you will start answering this question? Can anybody please tell me the first, point that you will see during the interview? Tell me, guys, please.
Normal changes and emergency changes.
Okay. Okay. What about
Changes
others?
are authorized.
Changes are authorized. Okay.
Review the policy and
Policy of change management process.
Yes, guys. So before mentioning this before mentioning these points, whether the changes are authorized or not, whether it is a minor change or whether it is a major change, as I told you, start with the test of design. What is a test of design here in this? The test of design is what? It is a change management policy of the company. So you will start like this. First, I will ask for the policy procedure document for the change management process. Okay, first as an auditor, I will go through the policy procedure document. I will understand what is the current processes that organization is following. Okay, what is the current processes organization is following. From that process, I will try to identify any gaps which are there in the at a design level. Okay, first I will try to identify any gaps which are there at a design level. For example, suppose in their policy, they have not mentioned anything about a change approval. For example, you are reviewing the policy and you noted that policy doesn't contain policy and procedure both. Okay, okay, policy and procedure both. So suppose you are reading those policy and procedure and you noted that change approval process is not documented in this particular policy and procedure. So this is something that as an auditor you need to highlight a gap at a design level. That organization policy doesn't include the process of a change approval. Okay, so we'll start our answer like this. As an auditor, I will verify the change management policy procedure document. Here I will read the current policy process. I will try to understand the current process that organization is following. From that, I will try to identify design gap if there are any. After reading the policy procedure document, I will verify some controls, like I will say how the change process is initiated. Okay, how the change process is initiated. Generally, the change management process is initiated through a change request form. So you will see a CR form or request for change. So these are the two documents which are generally there in the organization. This is how the change management process is initiated. In the change request and the RFC, I will know the impact. So organization will also include the impact analysis. Okay, what would be the impact of those changes? Okay, who is the approving authority for those changes? Okay, by when you need to implement the changes, your TAT. All these things are included in the RFC or change request document. Okay, after initiation of RFC, somebody will approve those RFC. Okay, and while approval and while doing this, organization will also identify whether this change is a minor change or whether this is a major change, because depending on the criticality of the changes, the process may differ. For example, for major changes, suppose I need an approval from the CAB as well. Now you might be thinking, what is this CAB? So in some organization, there is a change advisory board. Okay, there is a change advisory board who look after all the all the changes in the organization. It is like a committee which is there to monitor all the changes. So in policy, they might mention that all the major changes will be approved by the CAB. So the severity of changes is very important. Okay. So I will check whether it is a minor change, major change. After changes is approved, I will check whether the it will go to the development team. Okay, development team will work on the changes. Okay, they will develop the change. After development, we'll check for the testing. Okay, we'll check for the testing. Now before in testing, what we will check? We will check whether the user acceptance testing is conducted or not. UAT testing is done or not. In UAT testing, we will verify that the person who have raises a change request or the person from the same department who have raised a change request, they are involved in the UAT testing. They are involved in the UAT testing. Okay, involved in the testing. I need to check this aspect as well. After UAT testing, I will say that my change will be migrated to the production. My change will be migrated to the production. Now, when I do a migration to a production environment, as an auditor, I need to take a prior downtime approval for the same. Okay, downtime approval is very important. We need to check. We need to tell them that before migrating changes into the production environment, if there is any impact on the production, we need to take a downtime approval from the application or system owner. Okay. We also need to tell them that we will check whether the rollback plan is documented or not. What is a rollback plan? It is like a backout plan. That suppose if this change is not implemented successfully, how I will roll back my system to the previous state. Okay, I tell. Okay, after migration of a changes to the production environment, there is a process of doing a post implementation. So I will say whether the post implementation, the post implementation review is done or not. Okay, and suppose if this change is related to your primary, for example, your primary data center. Okay, suppose this is the change which is also affecting your secondary data center, which is your DR side. So I will ask whether this particular change is migrated to a DR site or not. So guys, this is end-to-end process for entire change management process. If you will answer like this, in this 5-minute discussion, we have discussed the entire change management process from start to end. In majority of cases, I have seen that auditor doesn't talk about a migration of changes to a DR. Very rare I have seen that during an interview somebody has answered to this extent. Okay, generally people end this particular answer at a post implementation review. We are going one step ahead, where we are saying that if this change has an impact to a DR site, okay, we will also check whether the changes are migrated to DR site or not. Okay, so this is the entire change management process that we discussed. I hope it has given you a very much clarity that what you need to answer. Okay, I hope this is clear to you guys. I hope this is clear. Yeah, missed what is DR site. So Umesh, what will happen? What will happen? I will tell you what is DR site. So there, first is your primary site. Okay, first is your primary site. For example, suppose if your entire data is hosted at a Mumbai location. Okay, so Mumbai location is, suppose this is your primary site where your entire data is hosted. Okay, now suppose you have done some changes which are affecting to your DR as well. Suppose you have a replication for that particular changes at a DR site. DR site is where, suppose it is at a Hyderabad. So you have done those changes to the primary site. Now you also need to migrate those changes to a DR site, because if you will not do a migration to DR site, in case of disaster, that functionality will not work. Okay, that is why we are saying that we will migrate a changes to a DR site whenever they are impacting or whenever they are related to a DR. Okay, Umesh, is this clear, Umesh? Great. Okay. Any other doubt, guys? Any other doubt in the entire process, end-to-end process? What you will answer? Any other doubt? Okay. I am assuming that there is no doubt. Okay. Great. Now, yeah, somebody saying something, guys. Somebody saying something.
The rollback.
Yeah. Right.
Yes.
Yeah, rollback plan, Mahesh. So basically, what is rollback plan, Mahesh? Whenever we implement any changes, okay, so for example, suppose you need to implement one change to the any application. Suppose you are doing some enhancement. You are doing some, you are adding some module to application. Sometimes what will happen, Mahesh? So while implementing those functionality in the current application, what will happen that after migration, my current application doesn't works due to some bugs in the feature. There are chances that after doing a migration, your application doesn't support to those changes. Yes, sometimes it happens. So as a part of rollback plan, what we are doing, we are preparing a backout plan that in this scenario, suppose after implementing my application doesn't work, how I will roll back my system to the previous state. Okay, because you want that application in the working condition, so you should have a backup plan. It is like your backup plan, that in case any change which is doing an adverse impact to the application, I should have some documented plans so that I can roll back my system to a previous state and I make that system in working condition. It is called a rollback plan. Okay, Mahesh?
Sir. Thank you, sir.
Okay. RPO, RTO. Yeah, Anchal, it will come. It will come. RPO, RTO are part of the answer. Yeah. This is a little bit technical. Yeah, I'm trying to give you the gist of question that is generally asked. Yes. Okay. Now again, very important topic that we discussed at the start of this webinar as well. That suppose if you are applying for entry-level job, interviewer will expect that you should know what is an audit report. Okay, he will expect that you should be able to write audit observations as well. Okay, this is something which they want, because as an auditor, suppose if you have highlighted some gaps, suppose you are doing this assessment, entire assessment, and you have highlighted any gap in the processes. Okay, any gaps was highlighted. Now, after identifying those gaps, we need to report these gaps, correct? That also we discussed at the start of this discussion, that in auditing there are three phases. One would be the planning phase. Okay, second would be the execution phase, and third would be your Reporting phase. In reporting phase, what we are doing as an auditor, we are documenting, we are highlighting all the observations which we noted. Okay. Now, out of out of all of you guys, have you seen any IS audit report? Can you please tell me? Have you seen any IS audit report? What is included in the IS audit report? Okay, Sanket. What about others? Have you seen any report? Can you give some, some idea about the high level content which is there in the report? Give me some pointer, please. Audit objective. Okay, James. Findings, very good. Executive summary. Scope, yes.
Observations and recommendations.
Very good observation and recommendation. You guys are absolutely right. So whosoever has not seen an IS audit report, let me show you a demo or dummy report so that you can understand, what is included in the report. Report will start always with the cover page. Okay, this is like your cover page. It is nothing but it will give you a detail what audit you have done. In the report, you can see what was your the scope of audit, what was an audit period, what audit approach you have followed, what was the audit team members. Okay, in audit report you will see the executive summary. This is very important. Okay, executive summary. Now this is the detailed observation which as an auditor we need to prepare. Okay, for example, suppose if I have noted that IS policy was not approved, now how I will present this observation to the management, how I will present this particular observation to the auditee. So I will write that on review of this policy, I have noted that this policy was not formally reviewed in 2022 and 2023. So this is the observation I am writing. While writing an observation, I also need to highlight what are the risks, what are the implications, which is there if organization does not apply appropriate control. So I am highlighting the risk, I am highlighting the recommended action, I am highlighting the audit severity, I am giving the root cause, I am asking for the management comments and action plan, and I am taking the target date to close this observation. So all these details are included in the audit observation. This is just a high level idea for you people so that you understand what is included in the audit report as an auditor, how you can write the audit observation. Now, accordingly, you need to answer this question, guys. I have given you the reference, what is audit report and what is included in the audit observation. Okay. Now, they may ask you that please describe the, the best finding that you noted in the previous audit. Now, again, this is something that will depend on your experience. Okay, this is something that will depend on your experience. Based on your experience, you need to describe the observation which you noted previously and what recommendation you have given to mitigate those observations. Okay, so audit report format we have already discussed, and this is something which will depend on your previous experience. I can share my experience, guys. So while doing one of the audit, we have identified the instances of password sharing. Okay, this was a very interesting observation that we have highlighted. Generally, it is very difficult to identify the instances of a password sharing. Password sharing is like, this is a practice that generally some employees do to do their work. For example, suppose if you are absent today, so to do your task, what will you do? You will share your password with some other person or with some of your colleagues. Okay, that this is my password of application. Now you can do that task. So this is like, not a good practice, and this is very difficult to identify how you have shared the password. But we have identified those instances basis on the HR data. So I will tell you what we have done. We have taken the HR data where we have taken the attendance record. Okay, and that attendance record we have compared with the login logout report, login and logout report of the application. Luckily, that application was accessible only from the company's network. So what we have done is we have compared the HR data with the login logout report, and we have identified that in this many instances, the employee has shared the password because they was absent of, for example, suppose if I am an employee and if I am showing absent today is what? It is a 15th September. So if I am absent in the HR record, in login logout history, there should be no record, because if I am absent, I cannot go to the, I suppose if I don't came to office, I cannot able to log in and that application. So we have compared and we have noted there are some employee who was absent on some particular date. Still, their records was their record was there in the login logout report. So we have highlighted that observation to the management, and they have appreciated a lot, because this is something which is very difficult to identify. Okay, but with the help of data analysis, with the help of data analysis, we have identified that observation. So accordingly, based on your experience, okay, yeah, Narayan, now work from home, how we will find. So Narayan, suppose if work from home is there, and suppose if your application is capturing the MAC address. Now this I am telling you, this you can identify only when your application is capturing the MAC address. Okay, so suppose I am an employee, my laptop have one MAC address. Suppose in the application log, I can see that Sachin ID was login through the 3 different MAC address. Now, from this also I can conclude that 3 different person has done the login. Correct? So it depends. It depends. Do you have a tool to help such analysis? Generally, Fred, to do all this analysis, in majority of scenario, we are using a Microsoft Excel. We are not using any other customized tools and all. Microsoft Excel is very powerful tool, and this is something that as an auditor, you need to have some expertise. Okay, yeah. This also I need to tell you guys, as an auditor, you should know some basic feature of MS Excel. Like you should know what is a VLOOKUP, you should know what is a pivot table, you should know what is a formula of sum if. Okay, you should know what is an HLOOKUP. So all these functionalities are there. There are a lot of functionalities in Excel that as an auditor we need to have a a very good grip on the MS Excel. Okay, so make sure that you have a expertise at least on MS Excel. Yes, we can use IDEA as well. Okay, we can use IDEA as well, but not all the audit organization have a subscription of this tool. Majority of organization uses an MS Excel only. So okay, as an auditor, you have to be a very good exposure on the MS Excel. So this is all about this question, guys. This is all you need to answer. Okay, and as per your past experience, please go with one good observation, because this is a normal question that was asked in the audit. Sorry, in the interview. Yeah, somebody was saying something. Yeah,
Hello?
tell me.
In the
Yeah.
auditing charter and the same you explain the same.
Sorry, what is
Audit.
Srikanth? What is?
Audit charter.
Yeah, Srikanth, what is audit chartered? Audit chartered is a document which will, in the audit chartered, we will document the roles, responsibilities, objective of audit function. Okay, in audit chartered, what we will do, we will document the roles, responsibility, and objective of audit function. Let me show you. For example, like at the start of this this particular webinar, I told you about this ITAF framework. Now, in this ITAF framework, if you will see, there is some lines given about an audit chartered. What is an audit chartered? It is a document. An audit charter shall document an IT audit assurance function, independence, code of ethics. It will include the purpose, responsibility, authority, and accountability, roles and responsibilities of auditing. Okay, the objective of audit function, the scope of audit function, the work performed by an audit function. So that is all included in your audit charter. Okay, Sanket, is this clear? Yeah, somebody also has raised the hand. Please unmute yourself and tell me. Please unmute yourself and tell me. Srikanth, I hope this is clear, Srikanth.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, great. Okay, so this is about that question, guys. Now we'll move to the next question. Now this is again very interesting question. This is generally asked when you are applying for some management level role. Okay, and in this question they will try to test your knowledge, that how much in-depth knowledge you have about the concepts about the IT concept. So what is this question? How you will explain the technical issue to the people who are lack of technical knowledge? And this is very much, required skill that auditor needs to have. Because as an auditor, we present our audit report to the board level people, correct? We present this report to the audit committee. In audit committee, there are, people who are not from the technical background. They are the people who are not from the technical background. Now, if suppose if somebody is from non-technical background, and suppose if you use the technical jargons, like you use that organization need to use an encryption in a transit. Now they don't know what is encryption, what is in transit, correct? They are not aware about this, all this technical jargon. So as an auditor, we need to explain this observation in the simplest language, if possible. Okay. So while answering this question, how you will explain the observation, I will be telling you that. So guys, whenever you have asked about this question, you also need to give some example as well. I will also give you one example. Okay. So you also need to give some example that in your previous scenario, you come across with this situation, and this is how you have explained that situation. Okay, so you need to you have to prepare for this question. Okay, so while answering this question, you can say that you will use some practical example. You will use a demonstration or comparison, or simply something to help them to visualize the problem. Now this is very important. So you will say something so that they can visualize the problem or solution you are talking about. Okay, and while explaining this observation, you have to use a minimum technical terms. Okay, you have to use a minimum technical terms. Now, for example, let's take an example. Suppose during an audit, I have noted that there was one application where encryption in transit was not there. Okay, encryption in transit was not there. Now, this is an observation that as an auditor, I need to highlight in the report. So the one way is that, suppose if while highlighting this observation, I will say that during the review, I have noted that application doesn't have a TLS version 1.2 encryption. That is why there is a chances of data leakage while data is transmitted from one source to another source. Now I am using some technical jargons like a TLS, okay, the encryption in transit. Okay. Now, suppose when I present this observation to some non-technical person, he will ask, he may ask you what is encryption. Okay. Why encryption is important in transit? What is in transit? He may come with this question as well. What is in transit? So how I will explain this particular scenario to that? So I will tell him that suppose if you need to transfer one message, okay, if you need to transfer a message to another person, this is your message. Hi Sachin, how are you? Okay, this is your message. How are you? Now there are two ways of transferring this message. Like one would be like, suppose earlier we were sending the letters. In very older scenario, we were sending the letters. And suppose if you are writing this message is as is format. Hi Sachin, how are you? Now, what is the risk here? So I will explain him that suppose if any unauthorized person have an access to that letter, he may read your message. He may read your message. So this is a risk. Similarly, when we are transferring a data from application A to application B without an encryption, then there is a risk that some hacker or unauthorized user may read to that data, may read those data. So this is a risk. Now, how we can mitigate this risk? To mitigate this risk, we need to implement an encryption mechanism. Now, what encryption mechanism will do? Whatever your message is there, we will transmit your message like this. Okay, this is your message. Now, even if some hacker will, access to my data, they will not be able to read the data because encryption is there. So I will tell that person that this is called an encryption. And that is why encryption is important, because suppose if we are exchanging some confidential data from application A to application B, then we need to make sure that this data is appropriately encrypted, because there are chances that data may leak in between. Correct? So this is how I have, explained that observation. So you also need to, give the description of the scenario and how you have explained the same to the non-technical person. Okay, is this clear, guys? Is this clear how you will answer this? Okay. You can use figure percentage to describe the. Yes, James, we can use that. Correct. We can use that. We can say that suppose if suppose this application is transferring some PII or SPI data. So we can say that if this data is leaked, then as per the GDPR law, as per the data privacy law, there is a penalty of rupees 10 CR. Okay, so we can use that. I agree with you. Correct. Okay. Fine. So I hope this is clear to everyone, guys. Just give me confirmation so that we can move to the next question. Great. Now, next question. Now this is like a behavior question that they want to ask you. What they will ask you. Tell me about a difficult situation you had to face and how you have managed to overcome it. Okay, so this is like a behavioral question that they want to ask you. For example, if you have come across with any such situation, okay, you need to describe that situation. You know what was the situation. Okay, you will describe what was the situation, what actions you have taken to overcome that situation. Okay, and what was the final outcome, whether you have done that task or whether you have deferred that task, whether you have completed that task. So that you need to tell in the answer. Okay, so basically for this also I will give you one example, guys. Okay, for this also I will give you one example, but you have to read with those kind of answer as per your practical past experience, because not everybody have a same experience. So not necessary whatever example I am putting here in the session, you will use the same example. Not necessary. What I'm trying to tell you here is what are the typical questions that was asked during the interview. As per your knowledge, as per your past experience, you have to prepare for the same. Okay. No need to mug up the answer. I am telling you very clearly. Please don't mug up the answer. Okay. Yeah. So whenever you answer this question, you need to start with the quick summary. Okay. With the context or challenge and what was the anticipated consequences would have been there. Okay, make sure that you took action and articulated why you did it. Okay, so in your answer this key point should be there, because interviewer want to check your as he will evaluate your answer on this points only. Okay, how you have summarized those things and all. Okay, so how you have communicated your observation to them. Sankit, do you have any doubt on this? How you have communicated your observation to the management? Because that we discussed previously, Sankit. Sankit, you can unmute yourself and you can speak. Okay, fine. So let me answer this question, guys. Okay, so suppose now how I would answer this question. So I will say that in my previous company, they have given me 3 audits. Okay, they have given me 3 audits simultaneously, and the timeline for execution of all these 3 audit was more or less clear only. Like one audit I need to close by 28, another audit, 2 audit need to close by 31st. So more or less all the 3 audit needs to be completed on one particular time. Now that's a challenging situation for me, because I need to make sure the execution of 3 audits at a time. Okay, so this was the summary or the context or the challenge that I was facing. Okay, now how I managed to overcome it. So basically in this 3 audit, I have prioritized the work. So basically I have prepared my to-do list. Okay, I have prepared my to-do list that in this pre-audit, these are the key areas that we need to verify. Okay, and for this area, like definitely I would having some teams. So I have allocated all the tasks to my team along with the target date that by anyhow we need to complete this task by this date. Okay, we have prepared our plan. Okay, we have prepared a plan from the backdated, considering that I need to submit my report by 31st. Now, considering that fact, by when I would be releasing a draft report, by when I would be releasing a final report, by when I would be completing my analysis part. So we have prepared those plans. Now, according the plan, we need to make sure that each and every activity is completed as per the plan. So we have stretched our working hours. Okay, what we have done, we have stretched our working hour to meet the timelines. Okay, and at the end, we have ensured that the submission is there. Okay, the submission was there. So this was the challenging situation for me. These are the actions which I have taken. Okay, and at the end, we have submitted the project with the help of entire team on a time. Okay, so this will give you a very much confidence to an interviewer that yes, in previous company you have faced some this kind of situation, because this is a situation which most of the auditor faces. Okay, as an auditor, there are scenarios where you need to complete the audit very quickly and all. So these are the situation which each and every auditor faces. Okay, so yeah, this is how you would answer to this question. Okay. Okay. Now, Narayan, if you ask me what are the risks in a change management process, there are various risks. For example, if changes is not approved by an authorized person, then unauthorized changes may be implemented. If rollback plan is not prepared, then there are chances that any change which is adversely impacting to the application, application downtime will be there. Similarly, suppose if UAT testing is not done, then there are chances that ineffective changes are implemented. So depending on the the type of control, for each the control there is a risk. Okay, if suppose approval process is not there in the change management, then it is a violation of SOD because unapproved changes will be implemented. So for each the control there are risks. That is why as an auditor we are preparing an RCM where we are highlighting the risk against each and every processes. Narayan. Okay, depending on the control, for each the control there is a risk. That is why we are implementing the controls. Okay, any training material is on writing the audit review. Shilpa, I have one material for writing on how to write an audit observation. Definitely I will share you this. Okay, so yeah, so if you need those material, please reach out to me on a LinkedIn. Whenever I get a time, I will help you with this. Okay, I have some material not readily available as of now, but I can share you. Okay, fine. So let me come back to the question. Yeah. So next question: what is the importance of audit work paper? And as an auditor, how you will keep a proper working paper? Now, this is very important. Because whatever audit we are performing, we should have a appropriate supporting evidences. Suppose if you're writing something in the observation, in the audit report, if you're writing anything, now for whatever you are putting in an audit report, you should have some audit working paper to support your observation. Okay, so audit working papers are very important because they are the working paper are the proof. They provide an assurance that your work, whatever work which was delegated by an audit partner has been properly completed. Okay, it is an evidence of your effective audit. So audit working paper are very much important. Okay, so as an auditor, how you will keep a proper audit working paper? This also, if you have seen the RCM template properly, you can see that against each the control, what documents I have verified. What documents I have verified, I am writing the same in the reference document. So if somebody asks me tomorrow that for this control, what you have verified, I have a reference of document. For example, for this control, I have verified the change management policy or procedure. Suppose I have verified this document. So I need to keep this document somewhere in my file server, somewhere in my audit documentation tool. Now, many organizations, many auditing firm uses a tool. Okay, there are some tools available in the market for audit working paper. Okay, audit working paper management. So where they are keeping all the working papers, and for each the working paper, auditor have a reference name, like that this is the document which I have verified. So this is a good practice, okay, to keep your working audit working paper safely. Okay, so this is an importance of working paper, and this is how you will keep your working paper. Okay, depending on the type of the organization, as I told you, some organization also uses a tool where all the working papers are uploaded. But as an auditor, you need to focus on the working papers because they are the evidence that you have completed your audit effectively. It is an evidence for you. Okay, and it is always good advice to give the file references, and you need to keep those documents safely. Okay, so yeah, this is about that. Now, this question, like I have seen very rarely some interviewer ask, but if you go for the high level or some managerial level role, they may ask you what is the difference between information technology or information system. Okay, because by this question they want to check your granular knowledge, like a deep knowledge, a deep understanding about an information technology and information system. How you will articulate this answer. Okay, so you will start that generally we have seen that IT and IS audit are often used interchangeably. Most of you have seen that, we say that we are doing IT IS audit. I am doing IT IS audit, technology audit as well as system audit. Okay, we are using that this terminology interchangeably, but there are some differences. What are those differences? Let me tell you guys. So basically, IT audit focuses on the technology infrastructure of organization, including hardware, software, and network system. When I say a technology audit, the main focus of technology audit is on the hardware, software, and the network system. But when I say an information system audit, in the information system audit, it is like a broader approach. Okay, information system auditing is a broader approach where we verify the entire information system, including the people, process, and technology. Okay, in information technology audit, as an auditor, I will evaluate the effectiveness of control to ensure the CIA, which is your confidential integrity and availability. Okay, here my main objective is to evaluate to check the CIA. But as an IS auditor, evaluate not only the effectiveness control around the technology infrastructure, but we will also check the effectiveness of control for the use, processing, storage, and transmission of information within the organization. So it is a broader approach as compared to the technology audit. Okay, and in information technology audit, generally we assess the compliance with the relevant laws, regulation, and industry standard. However, in information system audit, our assessment is not only restricted to the IT related laws and regulation, but we also check some other aspect like privacy, data protection, and information security. So in short, can I say that IT auditor mainly focuses on the technological infrastructure of the company, whereas IS auditor takes a more comprehensive approach to audit the entire information system of the organization. Okay, so some pointer you can take from this this summary, and this is how you need to start that this is an interchangeably used, but there are some difference, and at the end you can conclude that technology IT audit mainly focuses on the tech infrastructure, whereas information system audit focuses on the entire information system of the organization. Okay, so this is about an information technology versus information system. Okay, I hope it have given you a very much clarity about what questions that has been asked during the interview. Okay, now very briefly, I will also tell some key expectations that is there from you whenever you apply for an interview. Just a pointer I am telling you. Okay, you need to do some research on this topic. I am just telling you a key expectation to summarize all those discussion. Okay, what are the key expectation which is there? Okay, whenever you go for an interview. So first is what understanding of information system. You should have a deep understanding of information system. You should have a knowledge about IT security standard like ISO, NIST security framework. You should know the applicable regulatory knowledge. Now for this point I will tell you. Suppose if you are applying for the bank, okay, then before applying for that job, you should know how many regulatory requirements are applicable to the banks, because they may ask you that on banks, what are the applicable requirements which are there from information system audit perspective. So please ready for the same. Okay, if you are applying for insurance, then accordingly you need to check what are the applicable requirements which are applicable on the insurance company. So you should have a clear understanding about the regulatory knowledge. We should know what are the audit standard. For auditing standard, I have given you a reference of IT assurance framework, ITAF, correct? We should know what is the risk assessment. For risk assessment also, I have explained you an end-to-end process. Okay, you need to describe your past audit experience for the audits. What was your past experience in the planning, execution, and reporting? Okay, you also need to tell them about an audit documentation. Also, I have tried to include in the webinar. What is an importance of documentation? What we need to take care while documenting all the work papers. We should have a clear communication. Strong verbal and written communication skills are must, because to do audit we need to communicate with audit each and every time. Okay, this is our day-to-day responsibility to do a communication with the auditee. So that is why our interpersonal skills and communication skills very much matters in the audit. Okay, we need to stay updated with all the new requirement. For example, suppose in India DPD law is applicable now. So likewise, we need to keep ourselves updated from all the requirements. We should have a professional ethics. What are the professional ethics standards which are there? For that, you can refer the ITAF frameworks. Okay, we should have an understanding of a business context. We should know what is the business. Okay, what is that business? What they are doing in the business? We should know that. Okay, and we should have a relevant certification. Okay, because to get our CV shortlisted, first requirement is what? Relevant certification. For example, if you have a CISA certification, then there are chances that your CV would be shortlisted, correct? As compared to someone who don't have a relevant certification. Okay, so we need to take those relevant certification, like CISA is there, CISM is there. Similarly, AISA is also there. Now, guys, this is very interesting certification. AISA. In AISA, okay, what is the purpose of this certification? Like, guys, we have seen in the market there are people who are CISA certified. There are people who are CISM certified. Okay, but there is some gap when they actually go for the practical audit. In CISA, they have understand the concept. Okay, they have understand entire concept what is there in the IS audit. Okay, but they don't know how to apply those concepts in a practical life. So there is a gap between a theoretical knowledge and the practical knowledge. Now to bridge the gap, okay, to bridge this gap to some extent, okay, there is one certification which is called an AISA. In AISA, okay, what we do is we provide some hands-on training to the participants. Okay, what we do, we provide hands-on training to the participants that this is what you need to do when you go for an audit. So the purpose of this certification is what? The purpose of this certification is to give some hands-on training to the participant so that from a day one, they can at least initiate audit, okay, independently. Okay? This is the main purpose of this certification, where we are trying to train the participants so that they can do that audit independently. Okay, so very good certification. You can explore this certification, KISA, and some other certification as well. Okay, so guys, that is all from my side. I try to cover most of the questions that was asked in the interview. Okay, we are left with the 4 minutes. Okay, if you have any doubt, I am open for the answers.
Yes,
Yes,
Can you
sir.
explain the evidences collected in access management and change management?
Sorry, Srikant, evidence collected in.
Yes. What are the evidences we collect?
So, Srikant, in the change management process, if you ask me evidence to be collected, so basically first you will take the change dump, correct? What you will do, first you will take the change dump. From the change dump, you will select some sample cases. For those sample cases, you will ask for the RFC document, which is your request for change and change request document. You will check for the approval, whether approval was there or not. You will ask UAT evidences, whether UAT testing was done or not. You will ask whether the rollback plan is documented or not. Okay. You will ask whether the downtime approval was taken or not. Okay. As an auditor, you will ask whether the post-implementation review was carried out or not. Okay. You will also ask whether all the changes are approved by the authorized person or not. So who has approved the changes? This detail you will ask. Okay. And last point, as I told you, if your changes is impacting to a DR site, then you will ask the evidence of migration of change to a DR site. So these are the some of the evidence that you will ask, okay, while doing a change process. Okay. Remind briefly about the first question. Tell me about yourself. Okay, so yeah, is this clear, Srikant? Is this clear to you?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, great. Now, our last question. Tell me about yourself. So, guys, as I told you, whenever you need to introduce yourself, your introduction should include this, this aspect at least. First, you need to talk about what is your current profile, what you are doing currently, what are the relevant skills you have for this particular job role. Okay. What are your previous experience in the IS audit? Okay. And what is the key achievements? What are the one key things that you have that other participant does not have, depending on your strong, some strong that you feel that this is something which is unique in me, not with the other participant. So try to include that in your answer. Okay. Try to include that in your answer. Fine, guys. So yeah, that is all for our today's session, guys. If you still have any doubt, okay, if you need any help in terms of some template and all, you can reach out to me over a LinkedIn. Okay, whenever I get a time, like I'm not saying that I will reply you immediately. Whenever I get a time, definitely I will connect you back. Okay, so you can reach out to me for more such queries. That is all from my side for today's session, guys. Thank you so much for attending the session.
Yeah, hi,
Okay.
sir. Yeah, hi, Sachin, sir. Sir, can you please brief about user access review? Just.
Narayan, yeah, please. So yeah, user access review. Narayan, generally what is user access review? In user access review, what we do, we verify that. So there are two types of user access review. Okay, one is called a user recertification. One is called a user recertification, and another is called a user access right review. Here, what you are doing, you are verifying the right review. Now, in a user recertification, what we do, we verify how many users are there in the application, okay, versus how many users are there in the HR master. So here I am trying to check, is there any user who have left the organization, but if it is still there in the application? So I am doing a reconciliation. What I'm doing, I am doing a reconciliation of user application count versus HR count, and I am checking whatever users are there in the application, whether they are active or not. Okay, that is called the user recertification. When I say user access right review, what I do, I verify. Suppose Sachin has 4 rights. Sachin has a 4 right in the application. As a part of this user access right review process, I am verifying that whether Sachin Hissaria requires this 4 right or not, whether these rights are current or not. Okay, whether we need to change this right or not. This we verify in the user access right review. So to combine all this, what we discussed previously, we have discussed that to verify this, I will ask the 2 data. One, I will ask the list of employees, okay, who have left the organization, okay, and I will compare the same with the application deletion evidence or deactivation evidences. Similarly, I may ask the list of person in the application, and I may compare that with the HR data. This will give me a idea that how many users are there who have left the organization but still active in the application. Okay, is this clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Really clear. Sir, last question. Actually, is there any prerequisite to do certification in AISA?
No, there is no prerequisite. There
I
is
think
no
for CISA, we need experience, right?
So, Narayan, for that also, like many people think that for CISA you need a prior experience, but this is not a prerequisite, Narayan. You can pass the CISA examination. After passing the examination, you can gain the relevant experience. So that experience you can obtain after the taking certification as well. So it is not like that once you have 5-year experience, then only you will go for the certification. Not necessary. Pass the certification, gain the relevant experience, then apply for the certification. Okay. So passing exam is different from the taking certification.
Okay, sir. Really helpful session, sir. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you so much. Okay. Thank you.
Hello,
Bye-bye.
sir.
Good night.
Hello, sir.
Yeah,
This said we, on behalf of Hemang Doshi Academy and GISA Council, I would like to thank you. And Sachin, sir, it was very, you have shared an insightful knowledge with all of us. So we would like that you would, we will hear from you in future again.
Yeah.
And thanks very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah.
Bye-bye. Take care,
Thank you, sir.
guys. Thank you.
Can anyone share the first link what they shared in the chat?
Yes, sir.
Yes, firstly the link was a link of ASA was shared. Can you reshare the link, please?
You are asking like sheets or something. Actually, I'm not able to hear your voice properly.
link, AISA link. This or someone has shared the link. That time I did not see that. Can you please reshare the link?
Okay, I share it here. Yeah, I share it.
Thank you.
So it's been shared by sir. You can see that.
Okay, thank you.